Story time, it's my favorite time, spending time reading with you. Welcome to another story time with GamGam. Let's see what we have for today. Welcome back to Story Time with GamGam. Today I want to read you a story, Red Riding Hood, a story about bravery, and this is a scholastic book. And today I have the privilege of reading to you from Tampa Bay, Florida, actually St. Petersburg. So just a little tidbit for the day. Red Riding Hood, a story about bravery. This story was adapted by Meredith Russo. It was illustrated by Sonia Gonzalez, and expert advice was by Eva Martinez. In a quiet village along a cobblestone path lined with ivy stood a cottage. It was a happy home with a bright flower garden and even brighter young girl who lived there with her mother. The girl's name was Red Riding Hood. She was called Red Riding Hood because of the hooded red sweater her grandmother had knitted her. "You are so cheerful, my darling granddaughter," the old woman would say. "This cozy sweater matches the brightness of your heart." Something to think about. Do you have a favorite outfit or piece of clothing? If you do, what is it? And how does that make you feel? Red Riding Hood's grandmother would come every morning to help the young girl tend her mother's flower garden. "Grandma, one day I want to have my own flower shop so I can sell daisies because they're your favorite flowers," Red Riding Hood would say. Her grandmother would smile. "And I'm sure one day you will." Then one morning, something odd happened. Red Riding Hood's grandmother didn't come. "Sweetheart, grandmother is ill," said Red Riding Hood's mother. "She won't be able to visit today." Something to think about. Why did Red Riding Hood want to open her own flower shop? What would you like to be when you grow up? "Maybe a bouquet of her favorite daisies will help her feel better," Red Riding Hood exclaimed. "That's a wonderful idea," her mother said. "I will send you with some soup and bread as well, but you must promise to be careful on your way to Grandma's cottage. There are wolves in the woods." "I promise," said Red Riding Hood. Soon the young girl was skipping along the wooded path, holding a woven basket filled with goodies. No one could mistake her cheerful red sweater as she went, especially not the pair of wily eyes that spotted her through the trees. Something to think about. What do you think Red Riding Hood felt as she brought the flowers to her sick grandmother? How would you feel in her shoes? "That child is the perfect plump morsel to fill my stomach," thought the big bad wolf as he hungrily eyed Red Riding Hood. He rustled through the bushes, ready to pounce. "Who's there?" Red Riding Hood called when she heard the noise. She remembered her mother's warning and grabbed a large stick to hold high. This one has spunk," the wolf thought. "How much easier it would be to gobble her up if she were caught off guard. I'll bet she's taking that basket to the old woman in the cottage beyond the river. But I should get there first." Something to think about. How did Red Riding Hood show bravery in the forest? Quick as the wind, the wolf raced through the forest. Within moments, he was at Grandmother's door. "Who's there?" Grandmother asked when he knocked. "It's Red Riding Hood," the wolf called in a voice as gentle as the child's. "My darling girl," Grandmother replied, "come in. The door's unlocked." When the old woman saw the ghastly wolf instead of her granddaughter, she fainted from shock. Quickly the wolf hid her in a cupboard and put on her spare nightgown. Then he closed the window curtains, climbed into bed, and pulled the sheets right up to his chin. Something to think about. Why did the wolf pretend to be the grandmother? Is the wolf brave? Soon, Red Riding Hood came skipping up to the door. "Grandma, it's me," she called. "Come in," the wolf rasped. Oh dear, Red Riding Hood thought. Her grandmother's voice sounded strange. She must be very ill. But when she entered the cottage, things only got stranger. The light was unusually dim, and her grandmother had the sheets pulled up to her chin. "Grandma?" Red Riding Hood asked hesitantly. Something to think about. Did Red Riding Hood feel safe entering the house? What do you think? "Come closer," the wolf whispered. Red Riding Hood inched closer. "Grandma, you look different," she said. "What big eyes you have!" "The better to see you, my dear," replied the wolf. "If only you would come closer." Red Riding Hood took another step. "But Grandma, what big hands you have!" "The better to hug you with," whispered the wolf. He couldn't help grinning. Soon the child would be within reach, and soon after, in his belly. Something to think about. Has someone ever looked different from how you remembered them? How did you react to the change? As he grinned, the wolf's teeth flashed, and Red Riding Hood gasped. "What big teeth he has," she thought. For by now she could tell that this was not her grandmother at all, but a wolf, like her mother had warned her about. She had to think fast, or she would be eaten. "Oh no, I completely forgot," Red Riding Hood exclaimed. "I didn't bring your favorite flowers." "Don't be silly, child," said the wolf. "Come give your grandmother a hug." "No, no," insisted Red Riding Hood. "Without your favorite flowers, you won't feel better. You remember which ones they are, right?" Something to think about. Does Red Riding Hood's question about her grandmother's favorite flowers seem brave? Do you think asking questions can be brave? Now the wolf paused. He didn't have the faintest idea which flowers were the old woman's favorites, but if he had said so, the girl would catch on and run away. "Fine, fine," rasped the wolf. "Go pick my favorite flowers, but then come right back." Leaving her basket of goodies on the floor, Red Riding Hood raced out the door. But instead of fleeing back home, she crept around the back of the cottage to an open window. Grandma must still be inside, she thought, and I must help her. Something to think about. Have you ever helped someone in need? How did that make you feel? Meanwhile, the wolf eyed the basket of treats. His stomach rumbled. "I have not eaten in 3 days," he thought. "I suppose a small snack would do me well before the main course." Swiftly the wolf devoured the treats. He was so busy munching he never noticed the small girl in the red sweater sneak in the back window and free her grandmother from the cupboard. Something to think about. What do you think Red Riding Hood and her grandmother felt as they jumped out the window? Do you think they might have been scared? When the bread was nothing but crumbs and the soup was all gone, the wolf finally looked up. That was when he noticed the open cupboard and window. "Wicked child," he cried. "She escaped and took the old woman too. Now I shall have to show them both what comes of trying to outsmart a wolf." The wolf sprang from the cottage. Now he was ravenous, not with hunger, but with rage. But so focused was he in his pursuit that he didn't pay attention to where he ran. He slipped on the slick stones by the river and tumbled down into the rushing water, never to be seen again. Something to think about. Was the wolf brave by chasing Red Riding Hood and her grandmother? Back in the village, Red Riding Hood told her mother the whole story. "Thank goodness you are both safe," her mother exclaimed. "But how did you outsmart that nasty wolf?" "He couldn't tell me Grandma's favorite flowers." Red Riding Hood pressed a fresh bouquet of daisies into her grandmother's hand, "and I insisted I needed to pick some." "My darling girl," said Red Riding Hood's grandmother, "now I see that your beautiful red sweater matches not only the brightness of your heart, but the bravery within it as well." Something to think about. Think about times when you have been brave. What did people around tell you? How did you feel? The something to think about thoughts to read together. What is bravery? Bravery is the strength you need to try new things and to face new challenges. Did you know that you have been brave ever since you were born? It's true. You've learned to walk, talk, explore, try new foods, or even say no to things you don't like. All of those require bravery. What happens if I'm scared? Sometimes you might feel scared instead of brave, and that's okay. Fear is your body's way of telling you that something might be dangerous or not right. Fear helps you to be careful, but even if you're scared, you can still be brave. How do I feel brave instead of scared? The best way to stop feeling afraid is to think about what's scaring you and express it. Express means to share. If you share what's frightening you with someone you trust, like a parent or a teacher, you might feel better. How do I express fear? There are a lot of ways to do it. You can draw what scares you the most and share it with an adult around you. You can use your words to talk about your fear with someone you trust. Or you could try building a Play-Doh sculpture of what's scaring you and then squish it. And that can help you to feel brave. Continue being brave. There are many different ways to show bravery every day. Here are just a few. In class, ask the teacher a question when there's something that you don't understand. Say what you think, even if it's different from what your friends think. Just remember to use words that are kind and not hurtful. If a friend seems sad, ask them what's wrong, and then listen. If you see something that feels not right, tell an adult. If you make a mistake, don't be embarrassed to talk about it. Everybody makes mistakes, and being brave helps us to work past those. Try a new dish, or try to find a new friend. Being open to new things is brave too. And if it ever feels too hard to be brave, ask someone you trust for a very long hug. You have achieved many things so far. Thanks for your bravery, and you will accomplish much more. Thank you for joining me for this story of Little Red Riding Hood today, a story about bravery. I hope that you've enjoyed it, but I also hope that you've taken some time to think about the things that something to think about. Sometimes we need to take a moment to think about the things that bother us or worry us and to talk to somebody about them. And if it's too hard to talk to somebody, you can draw pictures. Or, like they explained, you could use Play-Doh or Legos to create an image of the thing that is frightening you. Sometimes when we do this, it helps us not only to understand what it is that we're afraid of, but to be able to talk to somebody else about it. I hope that you are having an awesome day. I love you, and goodbye.